So it wouldn't be Dragon Ball, and it wouldn't be the Super manga if fans weren't outraged. And yet again, with Dragon Ball Super Chapter 77, Dragon Ball fans are kinda upset. At least there's a section of the fandom that's upset after a big chapter filled with events showing Bardock and a past encounter that he had with Granolah, Granolah's mother, Monaito, the Heaters, packed with a lot of info. But fans are in particular upset regarding the characterization that was showcased in this chapter of Bardock, and I think that this has been an ongoing theme. And what I mean by that is I think that this has been an ongoing theme in terms of the re-characterization or the changing in general of Bardock ever since Toriyama wrote him into the Dragon Ball Super Broly film and retconned the backstory that we had in one of the greatest pieces of Dragon Ball storytelling ever, Bardock the Father of Goku, the TV special that was released many years ago during the run of the Dragon Ball Z anime. That was a different Bardock. It's as clear as day. There's still elements that are connected and they try, and I'm going to break down exactly how I feel about what they did with Bardock in particular again in this chapter, but definitely we can safely say that Bardock isn't as cruel as he was showcased in that TV special. In fact, there are some changes even in Dragon Ball Super that kind of again retcon what Bardock was back then, but that's not to say completely that Bardock is strayed 100% away from what he was in that TV special, and we're going to get into it because I feel as though there's certain elements of why you could throw the argument in there that no, this actually could potentially be for the most part similar to that Bardock. Again, he's been retconned in the Broly film, but ultimately there's some connections there. I guess without further ado, people, let's jump into it.
No matter how you feel, get it done. No matter how you feel, get it done. No matter how you feel, get it done. No matter how you feel, get it done.
So Dragon Ball Super Chapter 77 picks up 40 years ago. We go straight into the flashback of everything that went down back in the day where the Cerealins and the Namekians were living harmoniously on the planet together until a full moon hit and the Fire Nation attacked. Because a full moon hit, and that's when the Saiyans began to attack the planet, and you get to see some of them. And I ain't gonna lie, it's crazy how they changed things right in front of us. Of like, there was one character design when the same space pods were opening up and people were showing up, you know, to attack and whatnot. If I'm not mistaken, one of those character designs were in the Bardock TV special a part of Frieza's elites, and I remember it was like a big deal, like, whoa, Frieza's elites, and then they show him here and he's alongside Bardock. So I was kind of like, wait, was they mentioned ever of like, hey, they work together? But then again, you got to just constantly think about, unfortunately, as godlike as that Bardock TV special was, they're just using it at this point as a canvas to change things up and do what they will with the story of Bardock. Like, that's some of the things that we have to come to grips with, unfortunately, that what we knew about Bardock from that TV special isn't necessarily the canonical Bardock to the Dragon Ball Super verse that we have in front of us. We also see how Monaito survived, and he was the last living Namekian from the planet that survived, and he ran off with the Dragon Balls, hence how we see him in the beginning of this arc of how he has those 2 Dragon Balls, or was it he had 2? I know he had one of them for sure, but that's how he ultimately had the Dragon Balls that Granolah stole, because he had them from way back when, being the last surviving Namekian. He had them and ran off with them. And then this is where it starts to dive into where Bardock ultimately had his encounter with Granolah and Granolah's mom, etc. Because Bardock, while he was in its grade 8 form, he sees that there's like a mother and child that is trying to escape. And again, I feel like one of the cogs in the wheel that changes everything with Bardock, I feel like I've pinpointed exactly what changes Bardock in this timeline, I guess you would say, in comparison to the TV special. Because, yeah, well, we're gonna get into it. It's showcased very heavily, in my opinion, of exactly the big change of Bardock in comparison to the lone wolf that we saw back in the TV special. But we see that the Cerealins caught what's happening, that the moon is giving them power, and one of them decides like, okay, it's time to blast through the moon. And also they really started pushing this character Leek, which I don't remember if this character Leek was like introduced beforehand. Was he in the Broly film? Because I remember very vividly, and again, we can't really use it as complete basis because it's been retconned at this point, but I remember Bardock's crew, Fasha, Borgos, all of those dudes, Leek wasn't a part of it, but I think there was actually an interview where Toyotaro like tried to say, hey, this is why Leek wasn't shown with them, but he was actually a part of Bardock's crew. It'd be kind of cool, and I don't remember if like Leek was actually shown to be like killed off or anything like that, like, you know, with the Saiyans and whatnot when the planet blew up or whatever. But it would be really dope if he gets reconnected into the story somehow and we have another Saiyan. Like, why not? Because why put an emphasis on Leak being this guy that got caught by the blast, so it kind of marks him and gives him a specific character design and whatnot, unless they were just trying to do a little tidbit callback to something that had already been previously shown that was insignificant enough that I don't really remember it all like that. It'd be cool if it was actually built up for something down the road. But we see Bardock in front of Granolah and Granolah's mom when Granolah was a kid, and it cuts into, again, what changed everything with Bardock. Because I'm going to say right now, one of the biggest things why Bardock is different and the cog in the wheel that changes the Bardock that we love from the TV special to who he is now, it's hands down the introduction that Toriyama brought into the Dragon Ball verse with Gine, Goku's mom. Goku's mom is hands down the biggest thing. If it wasn't for Goku's mom, we would still have TV special Bardock. But because Toriyama wanted to add in a wholesome factor, it changes everything. And that's why when he's looking at them, Granolah and his mom, he's looking at them and getting this flashback of when he missed Goku's birth and how Gine was kind of on him. And it gave him this wholesome feel that, again, didn't exist because the character didn't exist back in the 80s or 90s when that Bardock TV special went down. That didn't exist then. So it was just this lone wolf that was a part of all these crazy missions. But I still gotta say that even with all that, there's still some ways that you could kind of throw in the argument at the very least that Bardock is still somewhat close to what he used to be, but we'll get into it. Also, it's been retconned now that it was actually Bardock that named Goku Kakarot. It wasn't, I remember in the TV special, was that a creature in the beginning that he's there with, you know, in the science lab or whatnot. He's like a scientist and he's like, Kakarot, remember that name. And now it's like Bardock, and even though Bardock was a bastard and missed out on, you know, the birth of Goku because he was on a mission, now he was the one that named Kakarot, so yeah. And Bardock was at the very least trying to save face because Leak shows up and he's like, yo, what are you doing? Because, you know, Bardock is in front of these two people that he's supposed to kill. And he's like, I'm checking for survivors. Just go on ahead without me, which, again, very uncharacteristic of Bardock. But that was something that I appreciated, that you could throw an argument in there at the very least, that it's not completely dumping on the Bardock that we knew. And what I mean by that is, throughout the chapter, there's a lot of instances where you've seen Bardock kind of arguing with himself and saying, what the hell am I doing? That's like, for example, I'm going to throw a crazy example right here that fits kind of perfectly, right? Because essentially the Saiyans were like space pirates almost. You could argue like assassins for the price, right? Like they was going to conquer planets and destroy planets for Frieza and all that stuff. Imagine an assassin that is on a mission, on a quest to go kill some random person, let's just say an old man, right? And he's been hunting down this old man. He's been watching him carefully for the right time to take him out. He's like, okay, I know his schedule. I know everything in that. And when it comes to it, he has a flashback of this old man because this old man, let's just say, and I'm kind of getting inspired by the anime Monster, if you know, you know. He sees the old man. He has the same schedule as the guy that's the assassin's father, late father or something like that, how he goes every morning to drink coffee. He has the exact same amount of sugars, he has the exact same brand of coffee, and it makes that character all of a sudden, that assassin, like, man, I'll take him out tomorrow, I can't do this right now. And ultimately it starts to change him. He can't go off and do it. He can't pull the trigger. The assassin can't do it, and it kind of goes against this whole thing of, this dude's been an assassin all these years, how could you do that? What changed? I feel like that's what's happening with Bardock right here, where I think Bardock still, there's a big part of him that he is a massive piece of crap, but ultimately we're seeing the small instance that led up to, of course, you know, everything that happened with Frieza. That was a change in Bardock. That wasn't the same monster that he was, because I mean, for crying out loud, when he first came to the planet, he was there to destroy and shit like that. There's something there that essentially made Bardock go down a different route, and we're seeing it for our own eyes. And I love how when Bardock shows up in front of like Monaito's place, because he had sensed, you know, that there was another being that was still alive, a survivor. He shows up and Monaito tried to hit him with a cane. I was just like, you tried, fam. At least, you know, you was trying to survive the best you can. But ultimately Bardock shows up with Granolah and his mom and basically says like, yo, I'm gonna leave y'all here if y'all could stay here. And Monaito's like, oh, sure, because Monaito's a decent dude. And as Bardock is ready to leave from dropping off Granolah and his mom, ultimately one of the things that Monaito has to question Bardock is, why are you doing this? What is the reasoning behind it? And he says, I just felt like it. And again, that's the biggest example of, while you might look at it like, oh, that's BS, whatever. No, it's something, first of all, he don't feel like explaining himself. Well, you reminded me me of my wife and my child. Ultimately, he was not necessarily even turning over a new leaf. It was basically, you caught me in a soft moment. You made me, and this was a change that was happening with Bardock, that maybe if he survived the encounter of everything that happened with planet Vegeta and, you know, Frieza destroying it and whatnot, maybe he would have continued on to be a better person. Maybe he would have still been a piece of crap. But ultimately, this was a change in Bardock nonetheless that was happening, that we were seeing before our eyes, slowly but surely, of him doing some okay things. He's still a piece of garbage. He still came to destroy that planet. Still plenty of people were murdered. But this was an instance that, damn, you remind me of my wife and child. And again, that's the big thing that changes Bardock from this and the TV special. Gine, his wife, and the family life. So Granolah ultimately says, wow, I'm alive thanks to the mercy of a Saiyan, which kind of just throws all of these chapters of vengeance down the tubes, and ultimately gave him a realization like, I've been an idiot all this time. I've been a dumbass all this time. What have I done? And then call it convenient writing, because definitely it's like, whoa, fate, where Monaito's like, and oh my god, you, talking to Goku, you're the splitting image of that dude Bardock. What the hell is going on here? And Vegeta reveals something that is pretty freaking huge. Like, this is Dragon Ball series type of huge, where Vegeta tells Goku like, oh yeah, no, without a doubt, Bardock is your father. Seeing Goku's reaction is kind of like, we don't get too deep into it. Like, he's not there like really inquisitive about, holy cow, that was my father, what was he like, or anything like that. He's just in shock, like, this is all happening right now. It has something to do, the dude that I've been fighting that almost killed both of us, he's something to do with my father? Like, what the hell? And I'm finding out about my father? And here's another example of why fans are upset, because Goku's like, whoa, you know, I wish I knew something about my father. And Vegeta's like, well, we know that soft spot runs in the family. And Bardock wasn't soft. That's something that I don't want to come into fruition of, like, yo, Bardock is now known as a softie, which I feel like that's what's happening with the fandom right now. People are looking at Bardock as like, yo, he's a pillow right here, fam. You know what I'm saying? He's a soft spot type of dude, and that's not the case at all. It's been very much so established continuity wise that the Saiyans were some wild people, you know what I'm saying? The reason why Goku became a good person was not because of Bardock. Bardock was, yeah, he was an asshole, he was a murderer. It was only because Goku bumped his head that he became a good guy. It's not about the soft spot coming from his father. Now, some people want to defend it and say, just in general, like, what's wrong with, you know, Bardock having a soft spot? Like, yeah, he had a soft spot there, but ultimately I don't want that to become the retcon of Dragon Ball in general of, no, that's why Goku was a good guy because of his father. It was because of an accident that led him. But then again, it could be that it's trying to change the fact that Goku was never going to be a wild person, which I don't like that retcon, honestly. I feel like this was just a one-time deal, or maybe Bardock was starting to take a new leap, so to speak, but I don't feel like it's because Bardock was a good guy that Goku should be a good guy connected to that. Like, no. And following that, Granolah questions, okay, all of that is all fine and dandy, but what happened with my mom? Tell me about my mom. Like, why didn't my mom survive? And we cut more back to the flashback, which I feel like this was a very flashback-rich chapter that gave a lot of insight. Honestly, it's interesting that we're getting a lot of answers via this Bardock flashback. Almost as if, imagine this, because I look at it from a marketing side of things too. What if it's that the studio behind things was like, yo, we want to put Bardock into the Dragon Ball Super series, not just like heroes that he's been involved in, but how do we do that without bringing him back and things like that, but still make him very important? And this is what we got, that he is connected very heavily to the Heaters, to Granolah, to the big villain that Goku is facing off against this chapter. And we see that in the flashback, the Heaters showed up as Bardock was leaving from being healed by Monaito, which is crazy because, again, more connections to everything, and they're basically there to kind of broker for the planet because they were trying to do slide things. Imagine, like, again, Frieza's the overlord of all of this, and they're trying to do like nasty little deals because they don't really rock with Frieza either. They don't want to be under his thumb forever. They want to change things as well, and they're doing little deals with like flunkies of Frieza because they don't really care about money. They know that out of the whole Frieza force, really the only one that they got to be scared of, well, they thought, because at the end of the day, if Zarbon or Dodoria would have caught wind, it would have been a problem. However, everything is ruined, which I can only imagine what's that going to do to Granolah, and it also explains why Monaito never told Granolah the truth. Granolah wakes up, screams, Saiyan! After looking at Bardock's tail, and then Bardock has to go out there and pull on a show, because Monaito puts Granolah to sleep, which kind of, again, a lot of very convenient things as to why Granolah didn't recognize Goku immediately as Bardock, because, you know, he puts on the cloak, and, you know, Monaito put him to sleep real quick. He didn't get to see him. It it was dark and stuff like that. So a lot of explanations as to how the hell nobody, you know, especially in particular Granolah, didn't recognize that Goku and Bardock are, you know, identical, and also how Granolah doesn't know everything that happened because he was a kid, he was sleeping, he was put to sleep, he woke up for a second. So a little muddy, but ultimately I guess it checks out. And the biggest thing that is going to make Granolah go crazy, because remember, don't forget, Granolah's still the strongest in the universe, right? Granolah's mom is shot through the chest by one of the heaters because Bardock was trying to like play it off like, no, I'm not gonna kill them, let's figure things out, maybe they have some insight, and they blast straight through Granolah's mom, which pisses off Bardock, because again, the big thing right here of why Bardock is not being a savage and killing everybody is because Granolah's mom and Granolah remind him of his wife and son. So that was one of the big things that kind of pisses him off, and yeah, leads to a big connection of Goku's father went through it with all these people. Following that, Bardock grabs Monaito and them and hides, and it cuts from the flashback, which that means that there's still more to the flashback, and I wouldn't be surprised if hopefully when we return to the flashback, it shows a little bit of heartless nature to Bardock, which I don't think so, because it looks like it's really going up a righteous tree. But it would be nice too, because it seems as though it's hinting that Bardock threw hands with that one heater that went to follow them, the youngest one, and they even said that he had a battle against Bardock. I'm imagining during a battle Goku's going to have one of the heaters. We're going to cut into that flashback and see everything else that happened before Bardock left that planet of Granolah, Monaito, and them, and the battle that Bardock had against that dude. So I'm interested in seeing what happens there. And also the fact that that guy wants revenge, so he's probably going to really set his sights on fighting Goku, since Goku is identical to Bardock and they had a fight. I'm imagining that face is ingrained in his memory. And the chapter ends off with the heaters having one of the Dragon Balls, and they're on their way to get the second one. Now, I'll be honest with you, honestly, I really enjoyed this chapter. I like this chapter. The recharacterization of Bardock is the biggest issue that the fandom has in general. I guess also, you know, the meeting of now Goku is aware of Bardock. I like that. I feel like it's about freaking time that Goku learns a little bit more about his Saiyan heritage, but ultimately we got that in the wings. I just feel like for the most part, Bardock lived a long life prior to this, right? Bardock was murder. He was a space pirate. All of that jazz under the thumb of Frieza. The biggest recharacterization that changes what Bardock is towards the end of his life, and possibly again, unfortunately retcons the TV special, is the fact that his wife and child changed his mind, opposed to in the TV special, he was a deadbeat that didn't even realize that his son was born, and they connected that as well, I guess, that he didn't know his son was born. But then they had Bardock be the one that named him Kakarot. They changed a few different things that you could argue there's some connections, but yeah, there's definitely some retcons, and I understand where the fandom is upset with. I've just come to since the Broly film, except that that's not the same Bardock anymore. If I want that Bardock, I guess I gotta watch the TV special, but that's no longer strictly canonical. There was a point in Bardock's life towards the end of his life that he actually was a good person. Prior to that, he still was the piece of shit that we knew from the TV special, but here is the first glimpses of where Bardock became the person that maybe, who knows, that was a part of Saiyan like Bardock that start off as a piece of crap, and there can be a point in your life where you could change, and then that could throw in the argument of the ambiguous nature of, was it the bump on the head, or was it that there was a change coming that it kind of pushed to begin with the bump on the head? And your overall thoughts and expectations, how do you feel? Do you feel like it's BS the way Bardock is being characterized? How do you feel about the connections with the heaters, Granolah's mom? What do you think is Granolah's next move going to be? Is he going to say, I don't care, you're lying, Monaito, and attack Goku and them? Or is he going to attack the heaters? I feel like he's going to go on a rampage against the heaters, and I can't wait to see it. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Hit that bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links are in the description below. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. And remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Have an awesome day. Peace in, and it's the same Bardock, just a little twist and a spin up towards the tail end of his life, which unfortunately retcons one of the greatest pieces of Dragon Ball media, but I've accepted that since the Broly film. I don't know, that's just me. Have an awesome one.